The COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to do a rethink on what we are doing to ourselves with our bodies and our minds. What about our mental health? The pandemic, in that sense, has been a real eye-opener. To add to it, we are living in a very fast-paced world where a 2,000-calorie meal is ordered in just 1 minute, where eating food out of a packet has become a norm rather than an exception, where stress has become a lifelong partner, where our phones, our gadgets, are our companions and not our family members and friends. We try and make an attempt to help you understand on how to go back to the basics. I'm Sneha Mordani, and in today's brand new episode of Health 360, we talk about women's health. The most common problem that women brush under the carpet without realizing that it could be a warning sign of something big. This problem is that of painful periods and prolonged periods. This report is my first-hand account of the problem many women face. We're talking about endometriosis. Take a look. So this causes pain, very, very bad pain. You can almost feel like there's a blackout in front of you. Imagine having cramps every day, sometimes for like days together, any time of the day, many times in a day. That is endometriosis for you. Periods or no periods, you have cramps every single day. 1 in every 10 women suffer from endometriosis. Most of them don't even know they do. So just like me, I was completely unaware about what is really happening to me. Tolerating pain and taking it as normal just became a part of life. I thought it is okay. This is just this is just natural. Putting up with so much pain should come naturally to me because this is the way of nature. I didn't know that it was not normal. A health reporter is supposed to have a lot more privilege in terms of, access to information around your health, have more knowledge about endometriosis than the layman. But in spite of that, I did not. I also thought that staining the bed sheet is normal. Maybe it's not just me. Maybe there are others also who are having to undergo this experience of getting up every morning and the first thing that you do, actually sometimes towards the middle of the night as well, towards the morning, in the middle of the night, you get up and check if your bed sheet is stained or not. Imagine being in a position where you bleed so heavily that you're bleeding for 10 days in a row. There were instances of my staining even the sofa, for example, and I did so in somebody else's house as well. Like that is how heavy I bleed. Excessive bleeding and prolonged bleeding, in fact, is one of the first signs of endometriosis. Doctors now say neither prolonged bleeding nor painful periods is normal.
They lose a lot of blood during a period, then it can make them anemic, they feel weak, they have all the symptoms of anemia, that they can't concentrate on work and all this. So prolonged and heavy bleeding is not considered normal.
To begin with, difficult or painful periods or very heavy blood flow was never really a problem for me. In fact, this really came out of the blue for me. This was the year 2012 that I saw an increase in weight. Suddenly I felt that I'm just feeling very bloated. And there was this time when I was in my previous organization when I was actually alone and I was just about to call it a day. And the minute I got up from my chair, I felt there was a blackout and I passed out. And several scans and MRIs later, which also, by the way, did not give an accurate picture of the situation, the doctor did say that this appears to be a very, very bad case of endometriosis, and this has probably progressed to the last stage of endometriosis, which is stage 4, which means that I will need a surgery.
So endometriosis is a gynecological condition in which the lining of the uterus develops inside. Instead of staying inside the cavity, it can develop outside the uterus or in the wall of the uterus. It can also develop in remote places. You can't even imagine that lining can go as far as the lungs and the abdominal surface, and anywhere in the body it can develop.
Currently, it is not known what causes endometriosis. It is largely seen as a genetic or immunological disorder. It causes extreme pain while the woman is in a sexual activity. It causes life-changing problems like pain that interferes with any day-to-day activity. And worse, it causes infertility. Imagine having to do everything, every little thing, just keeping your pain threshold in mind, keeping in mind whether the periods will be manageable or not. Imagine like choosing not to go for a reporting assignment because you know that it may be difficult. Skipping an outing with friends. All of that became regular for me, very regular. Everything had to be done keeping pain in mind. As is known, sexual intercourse is very, very painful. Defecation is painful. Going to the toilet is painful. Every damn thing is painful.
This is a leading cause of infertility because it can affect right from, if it has involved the ovary, then it can affect the ovulation, and it can disturb the tubal function.
Endometriosis is lifelong. It can't be cured. It can be managed with medicines and with lifestyle changes. But awareness is the key. To know that bleeding for 10 days at a go is not normal. To know that debilitating pain should not be suppressed using over-the-counter muscle relaxants. So after the surgery, there were some 36 to 40 cysts, and it was found in different organs of the body like the uterus, like the ovaries, fallopian tubes, right below the lungs as well, actually, is what I remember very distinctly, that it had even reached up to the lungs.
There is no cure. The cure is when you remove both the ovaries and you suppress endometriosis, the existing endometriosis, then you hope that it would not come back because the stimulus to the endometriosis has gone, and that is the ovaries.
For the longest time, I was on progesterone, which is of course the medicine that is taken to control your periods, and that was the medication for years together. Until the time I decided to try having a child, which I was told will never happen naturally. But then I got off the medication, and miraculously, with endometriosis grade 4 and with after the surgery, I did conceive naturally and I did have a child. So almost about 5 years after having the baby, I saw the symptoms of endometriosis come back again. I was told that there is a chance that it may come back, but many times after a baby, usually when you're breastfeeding, and usually you don't get your periods when you're breastfeeding, nature has its way of curing this. I clearly wasn't that lucky. The other common hormonal problems that women suffer from is PCOD and PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian disease and polycystic ovarian syndrome. While both of these are often confused with each other, our next report explains why both of them are different. It decodes both of these problems.
The bane of many women struggling to have a child. The leading causes of infertility in women of reproductive age. The polycystic ovarian syndrome and polycystic ovarian disease may sound the same, but they are medically different. While PCOD is a milder form of delayed ovulation and hormonal imbalance, PCOS is a more severe form of hormonal and metabolic trouble, often linked to obesity and diabetes.
PCOS stands for पॉलीसिस्टिक ओवेरियन सिंड्रोम, जो कि एक कंडीशन है हार्मोनल इम्बैलेंस की, जिसमें ओवरीज या अंडाशय में मल्टीपल स्मॉल छोटे छोटे एग्स बन जाते हैं और ये एग्स टाइम पर रिलीज नहीं हो रहे होते हैं क्योंकि बॉडी में हार्मोन्स का इम्बैलेंस होता है और जो मेल हार्मोन या एंड्रोजेंस बढ़ जाते हैं, जिसकी वजह से पेशेंट को कई बार एक्ने और फेस पे हेयर वगैरह भी बढ़ जाते हैं। सिंस हमारा एग फॉर्मेशन एंड रिलीज प्रॉपर नहीं हो रहा होता है तो नेचुरली इन पेशेंट्स में इनफर्टिलिटी की इंसिडेंस बढ़ जाती है।
Experts explain how common it has become in Indian women.
इंडिया इज अ कंट्री ऑफ वेरियस डेमोग्राफिक प्रोफाइल। ये वेरी करता है फ्रॉम 3.7% टू एन इंसिडेंस ऑफ ऑलमोस्ट 22.5%। जनरली हम बात कहते हैं तो 5 में से एक वुमन, ऑलमोस्ट 20% ऑफ द लेडीज आर अफेक्टेड बाय PCOS। एंड इन PCOS पेशेंट में इंसिडेंस ऑफ इनफर्टिलिटी इज ऑलमोस्ट as high as 70 to 80%. So that is where the concern lies.
COVID infections in women often messes up hormones too, leading to irregular menstruation. Studies show that PCOS, apart from infertility, can also lead to long-term health problems like obesity, sleep apnea, diabetes, uterine cancer, and even impairment of heart and lungs, leading to shortness of breath. Not just women, children born to mothers with PCOS are susceptible to infections and allergies before attaining teenage. Such children are much more likely to be hospitalized for ailments like asthma. While obese women are more likely to get PCOS, the condition often also leads to depression, anxiety, eating disorder, as per a study by researcher Adam Bonner, University of Alabama. However, this disease can be managed with lifestyle changes, yoga, exercise, and controlled diet. Timely consultation with doctors can also help.
India's total fertility rate is already at 1.6 in urban settings, where infertility is higher. While in rural settings also, the total fertility rate has reached to 2.1, slightly near the replacement level of population. People have begun to seek treatments, especially in urban centers where IVF treatments are rife and such facilities are mushrooming in many places. Awareness is key so that timely intervention can help people cure their problems. With Nasir Khan, Milan Sharma for India Today.
Endometriosis, PCOS, PCOD, all of these are problems associated with women in the reproductive age. But once they pass the reproductive age, which means when they're entering the premenopausal phase or even menopause, things really don't quite get easy. In fact, it continues to be very difficult. Our next report talks to you about the kind of physical and mental problems women find during and before menopause and what can they really do to help themselves. It is an inevitable change all women have to undergo. But the fact that it is natural does not mean it is an easily managed bodily change. When 52-year-old Monika Chandra entered a premenopausal phase, she faced a host of physical problems.
Being a person who's always had regular periods, I mean, I could plan my life according to them, my holidays according to them, my trips according to them. To suddenly not having them definitely threw me off kilter. I was wondering what was happening to me, and it did take me a couple of months to realize that, oh, now menopause has hit me, because of course I was nearing that age as well. And health-wise, of course, it had a lot of effect that I used to have hot flushes, I used to have cold flushes. In the sense, in the peak summertime in June, when, you know, like ACs are switched on, everything, I used to feel cold. So I had to have them switched off. Also, the swelling in the body. Whenever the feeling used to come that, you know, the period's about to come, there used to be a swelling which never used to happen before. And then they will not come at all. So that used to really upset you. You know, at the end of the day, you're having this bloated stomach, you're having this bloated body, then nothing is happening about it. Then, of course, things used to settle down. And there used to be a lot of lethargy. You wouldn't want to do a lot of things which you did normally, and I would feel a lot of lethargy, not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to socialize, not wanting to talk to anybody, just be by myself.
When the bodily function of menstruation comes to a halt, a woman enters menopause. It is usually signaled by 12 months since last menstruation.
Basically, in menopause, your ovulation or our egg formation stops. So even if the pituitary gland is secreting a greater amount of FSH/LH, it would not be able to stimulate any egg formation, and hence, since there is no ovulation, there would be no menstruation also, because menstruation occurs when we ovulate and when we do not conceive, because the endometrium builds up and then the endometrium sheds. It is a completely natural phenomenon, and in India, the average age of menopause is 45 years to 55 years.
Each woman is affected by menopause. Numerous symptoms are reported. This includes irregular periods, hot flashes, sweating, sleep difficulties, mood swings, irritability, and hip and back pain. Women like Monika say, often the impact on the mind goes unnoticed.
I feel, as my personal experience, I had to, remind my husband again and again when I used to have my mood swings, just get into a bad temper, or, just anything, get into a depression. I had to remind him that, I am going through a menopause, so just be a little gentle on me. But I think it would make a lot of difference if these things were instilled in school, when the children are in school. We do have, sex education as a subject in some schools. It is taught, the children are made aware, but still I feel that this is something that has still been avoided.
Mental health of such women need even more attention now, say doctors.
It starts affecting your confidence, your beliefs in your own self, your sense of worthiness, your state of mind about how you're looking at your own self positively can get impacted significantly. What it will do is, if you are experiencing certain changes in your body and they are affecting you, instead of just allowing yourself to be reactive to what's happening, you need to perhaps try and find a way to be able to talk and share what is your emotional experience, what is the worry behind it.
Millions of women around the world undergo tremendous bodily changes before menopause and during it, even after it. But there are many different ways in which women can help themselves out and ease the situation to themselves by preparing their body and their minds for this. Two excellent ways of doing it is ensuring that you have a very, very healthy diet and also incorporating exercise in your daily routine.
When we are into our premenopausal phase, that is a phase when ovulation is occurring erratically. So one thing that the most important thing that you can do is be stress-free. I know it is easier said than done in today's world, but stress is one of the biggest factors that brings early menopause. So be stress-free, one thing. The second, do not go above your basal metabolic index. That is, your BMI should be less than 25 at least. So that means weight loss. So both the things actually amount to what we can do naturally is eat healthy, as everyone tells, every day, and exercise. So these are two things that you can do to prevent having a lot of problems during menopause.
Doing any sort of activity, whatever you like, it could be yoga, it could be walking, it could be gymming, it could be anything. Doing something really helps you a lot. So that helped me a lot. I mean, I would say that, yeah.
When we talk about women, the tendency really is to brush their problems under the carpet, normalize their problems, normalize even abuse. And this has a direct bearing on their mental health. Our next report just throws the spotlight on the problem of domestic abuse and the kind of bearing this has on the physical and mental health of women.
She was young, had dreams, wanted to travel the world.
pursue a career in photography. She was documenting her life and journey through divorce and a bad relationship when tragedy struck. Pakistani American photographer Sania Khan opened her heart up on a social media platform, talking about the struggles of being in a bad relationship. This admission prompted her husband Raheel Ahmed to kill her at her home in Chicago on the 18th of July. He later turned the gun on himself. Sania Khan was an educated, progressive woman who did not shy away from walking out of a bad marriage. She was in an abusive relationship and was killed for it even after a divorce.
Now think about the plight of hundreds and thousands of women who do not even talk about the domestic and sexual abuse they face on a daily basis. The kind of abuse they face from their in-laws, from their husbands, and the impact this would have on their mental and physical health. In fact, the National Family Health Survey says that 30% of women in India face domestic and sexual abuse. Only 14% have spoken about it. In fact, these are figures which are grossly underestimated given that many women are not even talking about this.
The scourge of domestic violence transcends borders. Not too many days ago, an Indian woman who faced domestic abuse for 8 years in New York killed herself. Leaving behind 2 young kids, Mandeep took the extreme step. One can well imagine the mental and physical trauma this young woman had to endure.
This has led to a very restrictive mode of living for most women, especially in the developing countries. Additionally, continued release of stress chemicals increases the level of anxiety and also reduces the ability to enjoy oneself, thereby causing, sadness or lack of interest or lack of motivation, and over a period of time may lead to clinical depression.
But there is a way out. Never think you're in this alone.
What women can do to enhance their mental health is first and foremost accept themselves and their potential. Women are, in today's world, empowered enough, strong enough to defend themselves. If we are positive, happy, spreading positive vibes, not bearing resentment or animosity, we are definitely doing something good, and that means we deserve to do that or deserve to be happy.
Recently, the movie Darlings brought domestic abuse back to the spotlight, where a young woman seeks revenge by paying back her husband in the same coin, beating him back. While opinions are divided on whether this should be the solution, there is help that's forthcoming still.
फील्डिंग बहुत हो गई अम्मी, अब बैटिंग चालू.
If you're facing abuse at home, these are helpline numbers that you must dial. You can also call these numbers if you know of someone who's distressed. There are non-government organizations that offer support to women. Also, for counseling, dial the numbers on your screens. Sneha Murdani in Delhi for India Today.
Well, this report brings us to the end of this edition of Health 360. We hope that you enjoyed watching the show as much as we did putting it together for you. We also hope that you find these reports informative in terms of understanding your mind and your body better. Until next time, stay safe and do take very good care of yourselves.